Thanks for staying with us. And Bill O'Reilly in the Weekdays at Bernie segment tonight. The latest polling out today is President Obama up by 2 points in 2 polls, 3 points in the Rasmussen deal. But really, the polls don't mean very much right now because of the upcoming debate on Wednesday. After that debate, polls will take on more importance. Joining us from North Carolina, the purveyor, BernardGoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. So you've been watching the debate in the last 2 weeks about, how certain polls overweight Democrats and that they don't really tell you the truth. And you say?
I say that, first of all, you're right that whatever the polls are saying tonight, they may be saying something very, very different in a few days after the first debate. The part that baffles me, because I follow all the polls, the part that absolutely baffles me is I have no idea, none, if they're reliable. I have no idea if they're reflecting reality and Mitt Romney is really losing, or if they're so overweighting the Democrats that the polls are giving us the wrong impression. One day I see a poll that says Mitt Romney is not only losing nationally, but he's losing in every single battleground state. Then I hear Dick Morris in his poll say that Mitt Romney is going to win by 7 or 8 points. My head is spinning.
Right. And nobody can know. I mean, nobody really knows. So the post-mortem on this election is going to be very fascinating because Rasmussen was the best in 08 and 04. That's why we put more credibility into them than the others. But here's an interesting thing. The internal polling, I understand, from the Republican side, they take their own polls that they don't publicize. And that allows them to buy television time in certain areas that they need help in. The internal polling says that they are falling behind in Ohio in particular, that's a real trouble spot for them now. So it's almost impossible to quantify everything like that, but I don't think the polls are crazy wrong, but I do think that they're probably in favor of Barack Obama 1 or 2 points.
Well, okay, I'll buy that. Let's talking about postmortems, let's do this. Let's say Dick Morris is right. Let's say Mitt Romney wins big and the final polls don't reflect that. Then there's going to need to be some kind of investigation.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because Pat Caddell, who you had on earlier, who is a very smart guy, who I quote extensively in A Slobbering Love Affair, he thinks the media have become so corrupt during this election cycle that they're even screwing around with the polls. Personally, I don't believe the polls are rigged. I do not believe that. I don't think they get together.
Well, let me stop you. Let me stop you there again. Rigged is an interesting word. Every one of those pollsters at the New York Times, NBC News, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, every one knows that they're using the same model in 2008 today.
Right.
And they all know that the turnout is not going to be as strong in 12 as 8. So they know that their model is flawed, but they don't care.
If that's precisely correct, then that does slide into that does slide from simply being bad science into something more sinister, because it's not realistic to think that the 2008 voter turnout model is valid in 2012.
Right.
But if they're in fact doing that, and if I know it, they know that it's not a good model, then you do have to wonder if Pat Caddell is onto something. Again, I'm not a conspiracy type of guy, so I'm not saying it's rigged. But if they're using a bad model, and then they not only do polls, Bill, then they write about their own polls, and it creates an impression that it's time to write the obituary for Mitt Romney.
There is no government agency that investigates the press because we have freedoms.
No, it's the media. It's the media that should investigate it, and I'm not holding my breath.
Good luck for that.
Because this would be the same media that's doing a lot of the polling.
Look,
so if they're doing the polling,
people are so distracted, they don't remember 3 days ago what happened. This is what the media banks on. We can make a mistake, nobody's going to remember. We'll just wipe it off the blackboard, and then we'll say whatever we want to say. They're not going to own up to anything.
I hope you remember, because right after the election, I hope you do one of two things.
Well, you're going to come back and we'll run down all the polls.
Okay, all of them,
As
including the conservative polls that say
Absolutely.
that Mitt Romney is going to win by 8 points. Because if that doesn't happen, I hope you question some of these people and say, what were you thinking about?
Well, we already have a piñata set up for Morris outside. He's going to be swinging. If Romney gets murdered, Morris is going to be,
Let me reflect my bias. I hope Dick Morris is absolutely correct.
Well, a lot of people do, but the polls, we're really going to start to pay attention to them Monday after the debate. Right. It's going to take 3 or 4 days for the debate to sink in. It'll be on the internet. That's where most people are going to watch it, by the way, not on live time, because they'll be doing whatever people are doing, dancing, singing, karaoke, whatever. But it'll get around to the internet, and then Monday, we'll see. Bernie Goldberg, everybody. Charles Krauthammer on